Decision fatigue affects us all at some point, doesn't it? And if you're watching this video, maybe it's affecting you right now. So what is it? Well, ultimately, I guess it's pretty obvious. It is really you being so overwhelmed that any decision, even the little ones, you find are a bit taxing on the brain. So effectively, it's overwhelm. There's too much going on in your life. But it's not necessarily all the decisions you're having to make, it's everything else that's going on. Typically, it's things like our friend stress. And that could be physical stress as well as emotional stress. So of course, the people most likely to experience this are parents, entrepreneurs, busy execs, anybody that has a life with too many things going on unless they're mindful about how they operate as a human being, unless they're mindful about how they moderate their existence, how they simplify their existence. So what are the symptoms? Well, typical ones would be brain fog, would be irritability, tiredness, frustration. And if this is you right now, then don't worry. There is a simple answer to all of this. But before we get to that list of answers, let's also look at what this can lead to. Because ultimately it can lead to things like impulse buying. I'm sure that's familiar to many. But it can also lead to things like trade-off decision making. And that's where you have two possible decisions, both of which have a positive and negative potential result, which then leads you to being reluctant to make that decision, or to simply taking a much longer time to make a decision, or worse still, you end up making a decision on the spur of the moment and it ends up being the wrong decision, if there is such a thing. And lastly, of course, it can also lead to simply decision avoidance. Now, I've been there many times myself. In my recent health journey, I've had to make many decisions. And unless I was in the right state of mind, I would have simply waited, have pondered, have avoided making that decision. So what can we do about it? Let's look at some of the solutions to this. Well, number one, my favorite of all, is to train yourself to enjoy making decisions. Now, for many of you, of course, especially you entrepreneurs, you're used to making decisions and you've gone with your gut feel. So in your case, I don't think you necessarily need to be trained to enjoy making decisions. But for some, a little bit of psychological rewiring is probably a solution. Now, solution two would be to simply look at all your decisions and choose the important ones first. I had to do that this morning, in fact, and you won't believe the relief that comes from making those tough decisions or important decisions first. They hold so much weight, and when you remove that weight, it feels like you've been giving yourself a little bit of respite, a little bit of psychological freedom. Option three, remove distractions. This is an easy one for us all and something that we should just do anyway, especially when it comes to technology. Remove those distractions that are getting in the way of making decisions. Those things that we are psychologically wired to use, to make use of, to choose as a decision avoidance, especially when it comes to doom scrolling and all the other options that we have available to us that will act as a lure to prevent us from making decisions. Planning would be the next option. So what does this mean? This will often appear in that list of options for highly successful people and what they do in order to simplify their life. Well, you could either do the Steve Jobs, make your clothing simpler by simply wearing all the same color. You could plan your meals. You could plan your breaks. Just plan the week ahead to remove the need to make as many decisions as you would do on a daily basis when it comes to waking up, choosing what to eat, choosing what to wear, etc., etc. But you know what? The most important thing that you need to do, as we all do, is to learn how to combat this and learn how to tap into and understand the wisdom from in here. Because this is the trick really for many of today's ills, for many of today's psychological issues. We're not spending enough time in the now. We're not spending enough time learning to simply be, to enjoy the moment, to take in all of our surroundings, to make use of our breath, to touch and be with nature, to touch and be with other humans in the real world. And when we choose to make that as our first decision, we are ultimately calming the mind, and by calming the mind, we are then allowing our more rational, intelligent brain to kick in and therefore make it much better and easier to make decisions. So it's time now to learn breath work. It's time perhaps enjoy exercise in nature. It's time to connect with other human beings. It's time for you to learn breath work. It's time for you to learn how to be more mindful, to meditate. Because as mentioned, this is going to be your solution to many of your problems. Stand by for more videos on subjects like this. Stand by for more breathwork videos, movement videos. I will be exploring many more as we go through the rest of the year. Remember, we all have the power to calm the mind. We all have the power to heal our bodies. We all have the power to live the life that we've always wanted to live, free from the world's negative distractions, free from the world's negative toxicity, free to enjoy the body that we've been given in the environment in which we live, surrounded by the people that we most want to spend that time with. You have that freedom, you've got access to all this. If you're suffering at the moment, not just from mental fatigue, from decision fatigue, but perhaps you're suffering from other conditions, know now, as I do, through all the journeys that I've gone through, that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. There is always freedom from this current experience. Remember, this is just simply that, an experience to challenge the mind, challenge the soul. There's always a doorway out. And as long as you hold that belief, and the more you simply allow it to be, you allow your life to flow, the easier this life becomes. The easier it will be to simply make decisions. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.